Chief Medical Officer outlines Dominica's Ebola strategy. Government is commended for its CTE focus, and the Bureau of Standards discusses a quality assurance policy for the island. Thank you for joining us on another edition of National Focus. I'm Kimani.
And I'm Jarna Hector. Stay with us for details of these and other stories after this.
A lot of bathtubs are blamed for bruises. Some staircases are accused of being responsible for broken bones. Doors are occasionally viewed suspiciously as causing lesions. A high percentage of tables are accused of producing bleeding or trauma. Violence against women is a crime, and it's everyone's responsibility. It's inexcusable. If you're a victim or witness of physical or psychological violence or abuse, seek help and denounce the perpetrator.
Thanks for staying with us. Dominica has joined other members of CARICOM to develop a regional policy to improve and standardize the quality of goods and services in the region. An opening ceremony for the week-long activity was held at the Fortune Hotel on Monday. Stakeholders, including the public sector, consumer representatives, business support organizations, manufacturing associations, and importers and exporters, met to review a draft document of the regional policy for quality infrastructure. This policy was developed by the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, CROSQ, Secretariat.
CROSQ is a regional intergovernmental organization established in February of 2002 with the aim of facilitating the development of regional standards, promote the harmonization of metrology systems, and support the sustainable production and trade of goods and services in the CARICOM single market and economy. We are headquartered in Barbados, and we are seen to be the regional center for promoting efficiency and competitive production in goods and services through the process of standardization and the verification of quality.
The policy seeks to address several issues which negatively impact and limit the capacity of quality institutions in the various CARICOM states. The objective of the consultation is to present the draft policy for discussion and receive feedback from the stakeholders to facilitate the finalization of the policy.
Exporters have to adapt their products and processes to satisfy and comply with market requirements. Unfortunately, the Caribbean reality dictates that oftentimes exporters do not readily have access to recognized conformity assessment service providers, since the quality infrastructure in most member states is not adequate. Caribbean exporters are compelled to rely on foreign certification bodies, which increase their operational costs. Against this background, the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality is seeking to coordinate the development of an international recognized regional quality infrastructure to assist our exporters to meet their international obligations and market requirements.
The Honorable Minister for Trade and Industry, Dr. Colin McIntyre, described the challenge for Caribbean exporters in accessing conformity assessment services.
Caribbean exporters are compelled to rely on foreign certification bodies, which increases the operational cost. Against this background, the need for regional collaboration and cooperation as it relates to quality infrastructure cannot be overstated, particularly when it considers the background of the 16 CARIFORUM member states. All 16 states are unique. They have differences in heritage, governance, culture, even standards of measurements, which gives good reason for the need for organizations like CROSQ and the great importance of activities such as this. Such collaborations allows us to come together and synergize our efforts and positions in relation to standardization, conformity assessments, accreditation, and meteorology. In the Caribbean, if the Caribbean is to see continued growth as an emerging market for foreign investment and also exporting of its goods and services to the rest of the world, we must implement an effective quality infrastructure to improve and supply health and safety.
He says the government has facilitated the Dominica Bureau of Standards in taking a number of initiatives to assist with improving the national quality infrastructure. This includes the Metrology Act and implementation of the National Center for Testing Excellence. Honorable McIntyre also revealed his expectations for the consultation.
And what we want here, we don't want a staff or this policy to be like a policeman. I mean, not saying that policemen are bad, don't misunderstand me. But we don't want just the policing of a particular policy in terms of how you operate with your exporters, your manufacturers. What we want is to facilitate our people, to make us more competitive. Now, we are living in the ICT era, and more we're seeing what's happening. People are being placed out of jobs because it's all about automation and ICT. People work at their homes right now. So for us, in terms of how we look at it, government, is we can create these standards that can guide how we do business in Dominica. From a manufacturing point of view, what standards we need to put in place for that.
For the rest of the week, participants will discuss quality control in the testing laboratories on the island. This includes medical labs and manufacturing labs. The Dominica Bureau of Standards, with the technical staff of CrossQ, will also host a stakeholders meeting on conformity assessment on September 9 and the Level 1 training workshop for National Accreditation Focal Point from September 10 to 12, 2014.
In light of the recent outbreak of the Ebola virus, the Ministry of Health is taking precautionary measures to ensure citizen safety. The Ebola virus is an infectious and generally fatal disease marked by fever and severe internal bleeding and is spread through contact with bodily fluids. The disease has a high risk of fatality, killing between 50 and 90% of those infected. Chief Medical Officer Dr. David Johnson has confirmed that despite speculation, it is unlikely that residents will become infected through connecting flights to the island.
I should indicate to you, as you alluded, or confirm as you alluded, the risk of Ebola virus entering Dominica is low. The risk of a sick person traveling on a flight with Ebola virus is also low. Given the sort of flight arrangements that we have from affected countries, we don't have an international airport, and a lot of the travelers pass through a second and even third country before coming to Dominica. So it is unlikely, very unlikely, that someone who is sick with Ebola virus will actually come to Dominica through direct flights.
Dr. Johnson says health officials are cognizant of the 21-day incubation period when no signs or symptoms may be visible. According to him, various strategies are being implemented to safeguard Dominica's ports of entry.
Countries that, like Dominica, which do not have the outbreak occurring, are still responsible to put plans in place because of international concern. And these plans we're putting in place basically focus on a number of things: that our capacity to detect, our capacity to investigate, and to manage the Ebola virus. One of our main focus now is actually focusing at our port of entries, at the port of entries. In terms of our port of entries, we are stepping up our screening at the port of entries. We have for some time now have the presence of, at our main port of entries, the presence of port health officers who liaise very closely with the immigration officers. And we have, as part of our plan, specifically for Ebola virus, we'll be stepping up with the presence of what we refer to as public health nurses at our port of entries.
He further informed that an alert card has been put in place and soon graphic images will also be uploaded on monitors at the airport. As it relates to preparedness, Dr. Johnson noted that quarantine and isolation remain critical components of the Health Ministry's response to Ebola.
We have identified a number of sites. We cannot say as we speak we have everything in place in terms of an isolation unit. I do not think that Dominica is peculiar in that sense within the region in identifying the most suitable isolation unit. But one of the things that we are very cognizant of is that the isolation unit that we identify, there are a number of things that are required. And one of the critical issues that we need to address is to ensure that our isolation unit, there's access to the other resources. Because let us suppose an individual has Ebola virus, then that the patient would need the other resources within the healthcare system. That is the laboratory services, doing blood tests, for instance, doing X-rays, and some other diagnostic services.
The Chief Medical Officer reassured that the Ministry of Health will remain transparent with the general public.
There's no need to hide anything from the general public. As a public health person, what I say is that we need to give the public information. We have to give the public information for any disease that involves action by the general public and educating the general public. We cannot keep it as a secret. Okay. It's not a hush thing. It's not I come and whisper thing in someone's ear and the general public doesn't know. I mean, that has been the strategy of the Ministry of Health. That has been the modus operandi of the Ministry of Health, at least from since I'm here, that whenever there is anything related to an outbreak, any public health event, we inform the general public, because it's critical that the public is informed to be able to respond and to be able to protect themselves.
In other news, a leading educator in Dominica, Dr. Donald Peters, president of the Dominica State College, has publicly applauded the Labour Party government for its visionary leadership of this country, especially as it relates to training and educating young people. Dr. Peters was speaking at a graduation ceremony on Friday, where 24 young men and women officially ended 12 weeks of training in landscaping. The landscaping apprenticeship module brought to about 900 the number of persons engaged in government's national employment program. The college president, Dr. Peters, agrees that knowledge is what will build a nation, something the Roosevelt-Skerry government has recognized.
The Secretary of Education of the United States, talking to people at Harvard University, the great Harvard University, told them that we have ignored CTE, career and technical education, for the last 100 years. Universities and colleges have not been very good at that. They believed that all they had to do was teach people to be lawyers and doctors, and the economies of the world started crumbling, and we had nobody to do it. The government of Dominica, through their wisdom and the leadership of the country, in partnership with the Dominica State College, have seen it wise to revise what other countries are now beginning to do. CTE, which is career and technical education, is now becoming a significant part of what we do here. And you are the first people who have benefited from it, well, and the hotel people. What that means is that you can come to this college, get a skill, and make it work for you. And certainly the future of Dominica and the rest of the region lies in CTE, which is career and technical education.
The education administrator went on to advise the students to see their training as legitimate employment, something of which to be proud.
So when people tell you ukasekle or you're just planting trees, they can't do it. You spent 6 weeks with Dr. McIntyre, and he taught you a number of things. And some of the things you understand that is a skill. It's a competence that you have, and you need to make it work for you. When you wake up in the morning, you can walk through Goodwill, go knock on people's doors, the Jamaicans do it, and say, excuse me, I notice your flowers are falling, your trees are getting yellow. I can fix that for you. All it will cost is $100 for one day. And you have to do that. You cannot wake up in the morning, sit at your home after we give you those beautiful certificates. I don't want you to frame them, put them in your house, and look at them. You got to work. You got to wake up in the morning and take your tools and hit the road. And if you do that, if you do one good job for one executive or for one person, they will tell others. And at the same time, you make sure you do a little card, you give it to them, tell your sister, call me, I can fix her yard too. So what we've done, what the government of Dominica has invested in your career.
The 24 participants did both theory and practical courses at the State House, State College, and the Botanic Gardens.
The Dominica Police Force says it is ever diligent in its quest to eradicate drugs from the streets. Police Public Relations Officer Inspector Claude Weeks expressed this sentiment when $22 million in marijuana and crack cocaine was destroyed at the Monbruce Police Training School.
What is important is that the police have successfully taken off the drugs from the streets, taken off the drugs from the bushes or the forests in Dominica, taking them off from the sea, taking them off from the homes and wherever they were. And notwithstanding the delays or the protracted delays, given the situation at the courts, but it's good to know that we have dented those who seek to perpetuate their trade and seek to destroy particularly our young people and the entire system.
According to police, $7 million worth of marijuana and $16 million worth of cocaine was destroyed. Officer Weeks noted that although attracting large sums of money through sale, cocaine may not necessarily be a drug consumed by youth in Dominica.
So we see cocaine, which is a Class A drug, costs and attracts a lot of money. It also says that there is an appetite for the consumption of cocaine. It does not necessarily mean that many of our youngsters are consuming cocaine in Dominica, but it tells you that it could be transshipped. It could well be designed for other ports within the Caribbean jurisdiction, of course, and further field.
Head of the Police Drug Squad, Inspector John Carbon, also had this message for would-be drug traffickers.
We would like them to know that we will continue the fight against this drug that is really a plague in the society. We can see it, the problems, the social ills that we see around us, and as a result of the drugs cause the social problem. So we will continue to fight, and we ask them to try to stay away from drugs and find something worthwhile to do, which of course members of the public will be satisfied with.
And finally, Dominica is seeing an increase in skilled workers. That's according to the Honorable Minister for Education and Parliamentary Representative for the La Plaine constituency, Peter St. Jean. Honorable St. Jean made those remarks at the launch of a hospitality training program for the East last week.
I believe critical for us here is the fact that the Dominica State College is working in collaboration with the Dominica Employment and Small Business Support Agency to ensure that you as young people can be positioned not just to function in Dominica, but regionally and internationally. Because you must have heard over time that we have been focusing attention on technical, vocational education and training and CVQs, that is the Caribbean Vocational Qualifications. Our view is if you can function in Dominica, you should also be able to function within the region and globally. So through the Dominica State College, we are ensuring that you not just receive a skill, but that also you are certified in that area. So that whether you choose to remain here in Dominica or move to one of our sister Caribbean islands, that you do not walk to a tourism facility in St. Martin and say, I'm a bartender, but that you are able to prove that what you are saying is worth its weight by the document that you hold.
119 people graduated from another hospitality program last year in response to the need for young persons to acquire the needed skills for the workplace. The apprenticeship aspect of the National Employment Program will add a number of other programs targeting skilled workers. Executive Director of the Dominica Employment and Small Business Support Agency gives more details.
A minimum of 14 apprenticeship training modules that includes an arts and crafts module in collaboration with the Ministry of Caribbean Affairs, targeting 25 young persons from the Kalinago territory. A computerized woodworking module that will see over 25 young persons being trained every year for the next 5 years. 2 sewing training modules in collaboration with the GIS Dominica Authority, targeting the villages of Dubla and Petit Savan. Poultry training, cage making, coffee and cocoa propagation training in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture as some of the new apprenticeship training modules that will be delivered on behalf of the agency.
And that's the English segment of the news. McPherson St. Luce is next with Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en créole. Non, moi c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, Dominique ensemble et puis d'autres pays carré forum, qui a développé un policy pour faire et puis bon standard produit qui a sur la place là. En consultation qui est organisée par Bureau of Standard, qui a en place en Dominique semaine là. En cérémonie pour te ouvrir consultation là, pour place en hôtel Fortune en Roseau bon matin là. Ministère Commodité, Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre, délivré une adresse pour te ouvrir consultation là.
Nous avons a policy regional, qui a un regional policy pour Bureau Standard. Now, cross-Q, c'est non c'est mon là qui a donné, comme c'est 10, 6, ça c'est 16, en anglais, pays à Cariform, qui a comme ça, l'agence a sorti dans 10 EDF. Et bien l'agence a pour nous lever policy tout en Caribla, comme c'est Cariform. Et policy ça qui a gardé comment nous avons gardé standards et puis qualité pour toute qualité de produit à Caribla. Now, pour nous-mêmes à Dominique, ça nous plaît. Pour tous ces gens là qui sont du private sector, l'office, gouvernement, toutes ces qualités, l'office comme ça, il y a saisi et puis on nomme Hot Cross Q, c'est un advisor qui est là, avec nous, il y a un monde comme M. Colin Bouli qui est chef Kong là pour Bureau Standard. Avec ça nous avons gardé police aboriginal. Avec ça nous pouvons faire à Dominique, nous garder ça nous à Dominique pour Bureau Standard comme c'est à Dominique aussi. So you can garder code regional là et ben nous devons garder code qu'on nous à la regional là ça qui a ça pour monde Dominique pour faire primaire trade comme c'est monde savent et produit notre pays qui est en qualité qui bien bon on savent quand lever valeur comme si on fait toute qualité bah nous mettre un petit package pour vendre pour monde à l'autre pays.
Ministre McIntyre a gardé police là mettez produit Dominique à standard international.
Ça me dit aujourd'hui, malé nous ni un standard pour Dominique, moi li un standard pour international. So ça nous fait à Dominique, il s'allait n'importe place à l'autre pays, n'importe place à la terre, avec Isavan, et puis un bon nom comme c'est que lever Dominique, il mettait plus l'argent approche ces monde qui a manufacture, planter qui a produit, et bien tout le monde qui a vendu produit Dominique. So ça, il a exposé tous ces monde là Dominique comme si vous gagnez un bitter, il y a une qualité, en qualité, comme si les qualités c'est bon ou ça manger, il pas qui fait rien, et c'est une bonne qualité. Aussi même, quand regarder ça, nous avons produit à Dominique, et ça nous avons levé Dominique, et c'est un bon barrière, bon bitter, nous savons l'autre pays. So ça nous avons fait jouer, quand c'est des qualités, en policy pour Dominique, en policy pour regional, et c'est ça nous avons fait pour Siemens ça.
En notre nouvel projet, l'Office des As ou la monde qui tape vêtissement bien bonheur, qui a concerné des As qui peut-être en l'horizon là, pas qu'en bénéficie Dominique, mais monde qui a visité. Parole ça là, sorti officier programme l'Office ODM, M. Steve Joseph.
Ça pas pour Pep Dominique tout seul. Ça qui bénéficie touristes. Là où regardez Guantans c'est un hub pour toute les communes en notre pays là. Comme ça, en journée, moun ka sorti Penville, yo ka sorti Vieux-Cage, yo ka sorti Capucin, yo ka sorti tout partout, vini Guantans faire business, aller l'école, là yo ka aller au zoo, yo ka vini Borough Square. Comme ça, c'est un système nous ka développé qui Dominique qui est pris en forme pour faire tout le monde connaître si on désastre qui a affecté nous.
En la nouvelle, le ministre Dominique a mis plusieurs mesures en place pour faire assurer que le pays en santé a eu un bon standard qui a concerné la maladie Ebola. Maladie ça l'a causée par un virus et puis il déjà l'a causé plusieurs monde perdu la vie plutôt en Afrique. quand même si le chef officier médical, Dr. David Johnson, pays peut-être pas en ouest, même si il y a des gens qui ont Afrique, ni connexion ici. Dr. Johnson m'a fait parole qui a consigné étudiants en certaines écoles médicales. C'est mon salle là qui screen depuis visiter Afrique et puis retourner Dominique. Il aussi fait parole qui pour pays qui a reçu quarantine. Attention, l'occasion où la monde qui a fréquenté. Dr. Johnson dit public là qui a appris toute information pour bonne santé qui a concerné maladie Ebola. Et puis finalement, compagnie Dodowasco ni projet de l'eau qui finit, à d'identifier au continent. Parole celle-là, sorti de officier relations publiques, M. Edward Regis.
Nous aussi, les autres communes, là, il y a de l'eau, mais l'eau n'a pas de force. Il y a différents habitants qui ont affecté la manière de trouver l'eau. Comme Savane en Cachakou, avec Union Estate en La Pointe. Nous aussi des projets là pour aider ces gens à trouver l'eau. Nous avons des petits projets là, nous avons fait certains qui nous a pour trouver l'eau dans la première manière. Nous avons fini le projet en Guanfond, nous fini le projet à Benz. Ça c'est des grands projets même qui ont coûté millions de dollars. Avec nous avons fait un petit bitin pour célébrer avec ces gens-là, Guanfond, avec Benz. Ça, c'est des projets, nous bien contents de ces projets, ça, manière au fait, avec, nous avons pensé que ces gens-là, des communes, ça, qui ont joui l'eau pour longtemps. Parce qu'avant, qualité de l'eau avait valeur de l'eau a été trouvée, il n'y a pas assez. Quand ces communes-là ont grandi, il est bien important pour nous-mêmes en Damasco aussi grandir et pour nous amener global.
Messieurs, mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelles en créole pour à présent. Non, moi, c'est McPherson St. Luce. Au revoir.
Coming up next, the tip of the day.
DOWASCO recognizes that clean water is vital to healthy living. Therefore, it spares no effort in providing a clean, safe, and reliable system. Help keep our rivers safe and clean. Do not cut trees along the river banks and do not pollute with garbage, human or animal feces, and chemicals. Think water, think life.
One of the dreaded things about cooking with a lot of seasoning is the lingering smell that stays on your hands even after washing.
Here's a tip to solve this problem. After working with garlic, rub your hands vigorously on your stainless steel sink for about 30 seconds before washing them. That will remove the odor.
And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm.
Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/GIS News Dominica. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm Jarna Hector.
And I'm Kimani. Thanks for watching and join us again next time on National Focus.